Welcome to Story Planet, where we bring you relaxing tales to help you unwind. Tonight's story is The Christmas Homecoming. So, settle in, get cozy, and let yourself drift into a world of peace, love, and joy. Now, let's begin. As the first snowflakes fell gently over a quiet village nestled in a green valley, a little cottage stood aglow with warm light and anticipation. Its walls were adorned with garlands of pine and red bows, and the smell of freshly baked gingerbread wafted through the air. Inside, the matriarch of the family, Martha, bustled about, her heart brimming with excitement. For the first time in years, her 3 children were coming home for Christmas, bringing with them their spouses and children. It was the fulfillment of a dream she had quietly nurtured since they had each left the village to chase their ambitions abroad. Martha had been busy for weeks, pouring love into every detail. She patched up old quilts for her grandchildren, gathered fresh vegetables from the farm, and even polished the antique ornaments her late husband had carved years ago. The tiny Christmas tree near the window had been lovingly decorated with strands of popcorn and cranberry garlands, while jars of her homemade preserves were neatly stacked in the kitchen, ready to be shared. Every morning, Martha ventured out to the frost-covered garden to collect sprigs of rosemary and holly for decorations. She'd stop by the hen house to gather fresh eggs, always humming the old carols that her children used to sing. The house itself seemed to come alive under her care, each corner prepared to welcome her family with warmth and love. As Martha worked, she couldn't help but reminisce. She thought about the first Christmas in this house, when the children were young and her husband was still alive. The memory of her husband carving wooden toys for the children by the fire brought a tear to her eye, but it was a happy tear. She hoped her grandchildren would feel the same magic here that her children had once felt. Martha also took the time to visit the local market, bustling with stalls selling handmade crafts and seasonal treats. She bought extra spices for her Christmas pudding and picked out the plumpest cranberries she could find. The townsfolk, hearing about her children's return, showered her with well wishes and little gifts for the family. "You must be so excited, Martha," they'd say, and she'd nod with a smile that spoke of deep, quiet joy. She also set aside time to prepare surprises for the grandchildren, tiny stockings filled with homemade trinkets and treats. Martha knew these little details would light up their faces, and the thought filled her heart with warmth. In their separate corners of the world, the siblings were busy preparing for the journey. David, a software engineer in Toronto, struggled to pack amidst the chaos of his young twins running around the house. He'd promised his wife, Emily, that this Christmas would be different, a break from their urban routine and a chance for the kids to experience the countryside. He had even found an old pair of skates, hoping the pond by their childhood home would still freeze over for some winter fun. David's excitement grew as he packed a family photo album to share memories with his siblings. Clara, a nurse in Sydney, had marked the dates on her calendar months in advance. She carefully wrapped gifts for everyone, from woolen scarves for her brothers to handmade toys for the children. Her husband, Liam, smiled as he watched her excitement, recalling the stories she had shared of snowball fights and late-night storytelling from her youth. Clara had also baked a batch of cookies for the trip, their buttery aroma filling the house as she packed them away carefully. She added a box of her favorite Australian tea to share with her family. Peter, the youngest, was a university professor in Berlin. He booked his tickets the moment his siblings suggested the reunion. He had always felt a pull toward home, a place where life was simpler and filled with meaning. His wife, Sophia, was equally eager to meet her mother-in-law, having heard countless tales of her warmth and kindness. They even practiced a few carols in German, hoping to teach them to the family during the visit. Peter brought along books for the children, each one wrapped in colorful paper. Each sibling packed special items from their own lives to share with the family. David brought maple syrup and handmade ornaments from Canada. Clara packed Australian treats like lamingtons and pavlova, and Peter carried German chocolates and a handcrafted wooden nativity set he had picked up at a Christmas market. They all shared a secret excitement, knowing this Christmas would be unlike any they'd had in years. As Christmas approached, the family embarked on their journeys. David's family boarded a long-haul flight, the twins giggling as they imagined riding reindeer in the snow. Clara and Liam packed light, excited to escape the summer heat of Australia for the crisp, cold air of the village. Peter and Sophia traveled by train, marveling at the frosty landscapes as they grew closer to the home he had left behind. During their travels, the siblings exchanged messages, sharing photos of snowy airports, bustling train stations, and twinkling holiday decorations from around the world. Despite the distance, their excitement bound them together, each one eager to reunite with the others. "Don't forget the mulled wine recipe," Clara texted Peter, while David sent a picture of his kids' first glimpse of snow through the airplane window. Meanwhile, back at the cottage, Martha prepared tirelessly. She checked the guest rooms, stocked up on firewood, and even ventured to the nearby church to arrange for a special Christmas service. Her neighbors, touched by her joy, dropped by with baskets of treats, eager to welcome her family back. The village buzzed with anticipation, everyone knowing the reunion was something truly special. On Christmas Eve, the siblings arrived one by one. David's children ran up the cobblestone path, their cheeks rosy from the cold, and were scooped into their grandmother's warm embrace. Clara hugged Martha tightly, marveling at how little had changed since her last visit. Peter, overcome with emotion, kissed his mother's hands, promising never to let so much time pass before their next reunion. The house soon filled with chatter, laughter, and the clatter of suitcases being unpacked. The grandchildren explored every nook and cranny, while the adults gathered in the kitchen to help Martha prepare a feast. David chopped vegetables, Clara rolled out pastry dough, and Peter tested the mulled wine. The air was thick with the aromas of roasted turkey, spiced apple cider, and Martha's famous cranberry sauce. Sophia offered to teach the children how to make simple German cookies, and soon the kitchen table was dusted with flour and dotted with sweet-smelling dough. The evening grew merrier as the family decorated the Christmas tree together. Each ornament held a story, from the handmade baubles David and Clara had crafted as children to the delicate glass stars Peter had brought from Germany. The room glowed with the soft light of candles, their warmth mirrored in the smiles of everyone present. As the stars twinkled above the quiet village, the family sat down for their Christmas Eve dinner. The dining table was a sight to behold, adorned with a crisp white cloth, sprigs of holly, and glowing candles. Platters of roasted turkey, glazed ham, buttery mashed potatoes, and steaming bowls of green beans with toasted almonds were passed around. Martha's cranberry sauce was the star of the meal, its tangy sweetness perfectly complementing the savory dishes. For dessert, there were mince pies, plum pudding, and a decadent chocolate Yule log prepared by Clara. The children squealed with delight as they pulled Christmas crackers, donning paper crowns, and reading out silly jokes. Laughter echoed through the house, blending with the gentle crackle of the fireplace. As they finished their meal, David raised his glass in a toast. To family love and the best Christmas we've ever had. Thank you, Mom, for making this all possible. Martha wiped a tear from her eye, her heart full of gratitude. Having you all here is the best gift I could ever ask for, she said. On Christmas morning, the family woke to the sound of church bells ringing in the distance. The children scrambled out of bed to find their stockings filled with small trinkets and treats, squealing with delight at every discovery. Each stocking was meticulously prepared by Martha, who had tucked in small surprises like hand-knitted mittens, chocolate coins, and tiny wind-up toys. The adults sipped coffee by the fire, savoring the quiet joy of the moment and watching the children's excitement spill over. Martha's kitchen was already bustling as the smell of freshly baked cinnamon rolls mingled with brewing coffee. Clara helped her mother prepare a hearty breakfast of scrambled eggs, freshly baked bread, and Martha's homemade jam. David, meanwhile, stepped outside to fetch firewood, marveling at the serene beauty of the snow-covered fields. The pond glistened in the early morning light, and he couldn't resist imagining skating with his children later that day. After breakfast, everyone bundled up in their warmest coats, scarves, and gloves, and headed to the village church. The walk was picturesque, with snow crunching underfoot, and the quiet village streets lined with houses adorned in twinkling lights and wreaths. The service was beautiful, with carols sung by candlelight and a warm sermon that reminded everyone of the true spirit of Christmas: family, love, and gratitude. Neighbors and old friends greeted them with hugs and well wishes, their hearts warmed by the sight of the reunited family. After the service, the children played in the snow outside the church, building tiny snowmen while the adults lingered to chat with neighbors. The church's bell tower rang out joyous chimes, adding to the magic of the morning. Back at the cottage, the family spent the afternoon preparing for Christmas dinner. The children helped set the table, carefully placing name cards and arranging the centerpiece of pine cones, berries, and candles. The adults worked together in the kitchen, their movements a harmonious dance of chopping, stirring, and tasting. Martha took great pride in orchestrating the meal, but it was truly a family effort, with everyone contributing their skills. David took charge of roasting the turkey, basting it with herbs and butter to golden perfection. Clara prepared her signature mushroom and chestnut stuffing, a recipe that had been passed down through the family. Peter handled the dessert, whipping up a rich trifle layered with custard, fruit, and whipped cream, while Sophia added a touch of elegance by making spiced mulled wine that filled the house with its warm aroma. The children's excitement grew as the table was laid with fine china and silverware, and soon the dining room was transformed into a festive haven. The centerpiece of the meal was the roasted turkey, surrounded by dishes both traditional and new: scalloped potatoes, roasted Brussels sprouts with balsamic glaze, buttery mashed potatoes, and bowls of steaming green beans. Martha's cranberry sauce shone like a ruby gem, its tangy sweetness complementing every bite. As everyone gathered around the table, the laughter and chatter flowed freely. Stories from their childhood were shared, along with dreams for the future. The meal ended with a round of heartfelt toasts, each family member expressing their gratitude for the love and togetherness they shared. Martha, holding her glass high, declared it the happiest Christmas of her life. As the days passed, The siblings found themselves enchanted by the slower pace of life. They marveled at the beauty of the green fields, the stillness of the nights, and the simple joys of organic food fresh from the farm. It was a stark contrast to their bustling lives in the city, and it stirred something deep within them. One evening, as they sat around the fireplace, sipping hot cocoa, David spoke up. "Do you think we're doing the right thing, leaving Mom here alone?" Clara nodded thoughtfully. "She's so happy, but she deserves more than just visits. She's given us everything." Peter leaned forward, his voice firm. "Maybe it's time we rethink our priorities. Life here is simple, but priceless. I'd trade 100 promotions for this peace." The conversation deepened as they discussed their options. Clara, who had always dreamed of finding a balance between her nursing career and her love for family, wondered if she could transfer to a smaller hospital closer to the village. David mused about remote work opportunities that would allow him to spend more time in the countryside. Peter, inspired by the vibrant community and his love for teaching, thought about offering occasional workshops at the village school. The siblings also considered the practicalities of helping Martha manage the farm and the cottage. They discussed modernizing some of the equipment while preserving the charm and simplicity that made the place special. Ideas for a small farm-to-table business began to take shape, with Sophia suggesting they create a brand centered around Martha's homemade preserves and Clara's culinary skills. The siblings spent the rest of their holiday brainstorming ways to make a change. They explored the idea of working remotely, investing in the farm, and even setting up small businesses that could sustain them in the village. By the time their departure loomed, they had made a pact to take steps toward settling back in their hometown and building a life that centered around family and community. On their final evening, the family decorated the cottage together, draping it with twinkling lights and setting up a nativity scene in the yard. They cooked a grand meal, with every member contributing a dish, and shared stories late into the night. Martha, her heart full, whispered a prayer of gratitude as she watched her children and grandchildren bask in the warmth of togetherness. As the family sat by the fireplace, Peter brought out his guitar and began to strum softly. The group sang carols, their voices blending beautifully in the cozy room. The children dozed off in their parents' arms, lulled by the warmth and melody. Martha leaned back in her chair, her heart overflowing with gratitude. "This is how Christmas should always feel," she said softly. As the snow fell softly outside, the cottage glowed with love and hope. It was a Christmas like no other, a time of reunion, reflection, and renewal. For the siblings, it marked the beginning of a journey back to their roots, where life was not about chasing ambitions, but cherishing the moments that truly mattered. Thank you for joining us on Story Planet. If you felt like you were right there in the cozy cottage, smelling the gingerbread and hearing the laughter, consider giving a thumbs up. And if the story brought you peace and calm, feel free to share it with friends and family. Don't forget to subscribe for daily stories from Story Planet, offering serene escapes every day. Wishing you a peaceful night and a relaxed sleep. Sweet dreams.